Have you ever been in a room full of screaming sports fans and felt absolutely nothing? You see the wild celebrations and the crushing defeats, and you just think to yourself, I don't get it. A spectacle of passion and loyalty unfolds, but the universal language of stats, rivalries, and last-minute plays feels like a dialect you were never taught. If this sounds familiar, you're not an outsider, you're not broken. In fact, your indifference isn't a lack of passion, it's just a redirection of it. Your brain may be wired for a different kind of satisfaction, one that comes from personal growth, creativity, or solving a different kind of puzzle. We're going to explore a few common mindsets, let's call them archetypes of people who feel disconnected from the magnetic pull of sports. As we go through them, you might just see yourself. First up, we have the individualist. For this person, their indifference often comes from a natural resistance to tribalism. Sports fandom, at its heart, is a powerful exercise in what psychologists call social identity theory, the creation of an us versus a them. For millions, this provides a profound sense of community. The team's highs and lows become your own. When they win, you win. But the individualist can find this pre-packaged identity a little confining. Their sense of self is built on personal values and independent thought, not group affiliation. They might look at a roaring crowd and see not unity, but a loss of self, a kind of groupthink that feels inauthentic. This isn't arrogance, it's a need for independence. They might unconsciously practice a kind of protective detachment, distancing themselves from the intense, chaotic emotions of fandom to keep their own inner peace. Their connections are forged differently too. While sports offer a ready-made community, the individualist gravitates toward bonds built on shared ideas or creative collaboration. The relationships they value can't be found by simply wearing the same jersey. They have to be built, one meaningful conversation at a time. For them, identity is something you construct from within, not something you adopt from the outside. Next is the creator. This person understands the world through a concept we can call cognitive real estate, the idea that you only have so much space in your mind for passion and focus. The creator isn't apathetic. They've just leased that valuable mental space to other tenants. For them, watching sports can feel passive. While a fan sees a thrilling story unfold, the creator sees hours that could be spent writing, painting, coding, or building something of their own. Their dopamine reward system is wired for a different kind of win. It doesn't fire for a vicarious victory on a screen. It fires when they solve a problem, finish a project, or bring an idea to life. They're driven to create narratives, not just consume them. This mindset is often mistaken for a criticism of sports, but it's really a statement about the value of attention. The creator knows that focus is their most valuable asset, and they'd rather spend it on something that leads to personal growth. They would rather feel the frustration of their own creative stumbles than the frustration of a team's loss, because one leads to growth and the other just leads to next season. They aren't against the game, they're just too busy playing their own. The third archetype is the analyst. This person's brain thrives on novelty and intellectual challenges. For them, sports can sometimes feel repetitive. Now, this isn't to say sports aren't complex. The world of strategy and statistics is endless, but for some analytical minds, once the general pattern of a game is understood, the magic fades. The analyst's mind is wired for what you might call diversified stimulation. They're puzzle solvers and pattern finders. They might be fascinated by the physics of a perfect pitch or the economic structure of a league, but the game itself can feel like reading the same book over and over. This is, of course, a personal perception, as many highly analytical people are drawn to the rich strategic depth of sports. There might even be a neurological component here. For many fans, the thrill of watching sports is tied to mirror neurons. When you see an athlete make an incredible play, your brain fires in a way that lets you feel a shadow of that triumph. But perhaps for the analyst, that same neurological buzz comes from watching a brilliant debate, dissecting a complex film, or seeing a scientific breakthrough. Their heroes aren't always athletes. They're thinkers and innovators. They aren't looking for an escape. They're looking for a problem to solve. Finally, we have the empath, whose distance from sports is less intellectual and more emotional. While millions find incredible joy and positive social bonds in sports, the empath is highly attuned to the emotional undercurrents, and the world of fandom can feel overwhelming. They may be put off by the intense tribalism and aggression that can come with sports. The us versus them mentality and the casual anger that follows a loss can be emotionally taxing for someone who naturally absorbs the feelings of others. While yelling at a referee is a harmless release for many, for the empath, it can feel like injecting needless conflict into their life. On top of that, the empath might struggle with a sense of what we could call existential detachment. They look at the immense financial and emotional energy invested in sports and question its fairness in the grand scheme of things. The narrative that athletes are heroes worth millions while teachers or nurses struggle can create a sense of moral dissonance for them. This isn't jealousy, it's a deeply felt sense of imbalance. They seek shared experiences that feel more collaborative than competitive, and more unifying than divisive. So, as we've explored these mindsets, the individualist, the creator, the analyst, and the empath, did you see a reflection of yourself? Remember, these aren't rigid, scientific boxes, but just a few patterns that might explain why the world's biggest obsession leaves you cold. If any of this resonated with you, consider subscribing and liking the video so others who feel the same way can find it. And I'm curious, which type do you identify with most? Let me know in the comments. In the end, not obsessing over sports isn't a psychological flaw. It's a reflection of a mind that has simply chosen to invest its cognitive and emotional energy differently. Whether you're building your own identity like the individualist, creating your own world like the creator, seeking new challenges like the analyst, or protecting your energy like the empath, your indifference isn't an absence of passion. It's the presence of something else. It's the quiet hum of a different engine, one fueled by personal growth and a drive to write your own story. The silence during the game is an emptiness. It's the sound of a mind at work on its own terms. And in a world of endless noise, that's a powerful thing.